Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at a very popular item, and it is the skin of the Vipermagi. The skin of the Vipermagi is a serpentskin serpentskin armor that is an exceptional version, which is the technically the nightmare version, if you want to call it that. This armor has a relatively low strength requirement at only 43, and a really low level requirement at only level 29. It is probably one of the best pieces of armor that you can put on for quite some time for a lot of different characters. And the reason why this armor is so very nice is due to its many different statistics. Now, the skin of the Vipermagi is relatively sought after, but it also has a relatively variable on one of the things on it that people really like, which is the resistances. As we go over this armor, you'll start to see. So we have 279 defense on it, which is not bad for level 29 at all, and the 43 strength and the level 29 requirement are relatively low. We also have +1 to all skills, which makes it an excellent choice for any skill-based damage character. A 30% faster cast, which is amazing. The high faster cast on this is even better than a stealth armor, for instance, which is only 25%. This armor actually comes in really handy for a lot of characters to hit those special breakpoints. And I know, for instance, Hammerdins in particular tend to use this armor far longer than they probably should, just simply because that 30% faster cast is hard to beat. We have a 120% enhanced defense, which is static, and then we have an all resistances 35, which is variable between 20 to 35, as well as a magic damage reduced by, which is variable between 9 to 13. Now, the reason why people find these armors and they don't particularly like to hang on to them is just simply because it's 20 roll resistances is rather low compared to the 35 that it maxes out at. There are a lot of strong choices for items that you can put inside of this. Like, for instance, you could put another Rune in there, and the Rune would give you more resistances. So you could get another 15 to all res on top of the 35, which would make it 50 all res, right? So 35, 45, 50. Another thing that you could put in here is a facet of your particular choice. So, for instance, if you were a fire, a lightning, a poison, or a cold, whatever in particular that your character is, you could put a facet in here and increase the damage. You can also put a perfect topaz for more magic find, perfect ruby for more life, and you could even throw in a burr rune for physical damage reduction. The options on this particular armor are fairly good. This armor can also be upgraded with relative ease. So if you were to upgrade this particular armor, you will find out that the armor is actually not bad to upgrade at all. So let's go ahead and upgrade this one tier. So we're going to need a Lem rune, a Co rune, and a perfect diamond. Now, when we upgrade this, the level requirement is going to go up. The strength requirement is also going to go up. But it's still going to remain relatively low because this is the kind of a very low armor on that scale. So right now we have 279 defense, and we have 43 strength at 29 level requirement, and that will go up to 862 defense with a level strength requirement of 84 and a level requirement of 57. So as you can see, not bad at all. Even upgraded to its highest tier, it's still only an 84 strength requirement with a relatively low level requirement, and the defense goes really nicely up, which will have a huge effect on on your survivability. Defense in particular, will prevent those melee attacks from coming in and connecting. Now, I'd like to take you over and take a look at the Ethereal versions. I actually have 2 of them on live, and I figure why not show you my Ethereal versions that I have sitting around. So on my Paladin, I actually use an Act 3 Mercenary. Gasp. I know. And the Act 3 Mercenary is not the greatest, but on my particular character, he's actually doing fairly well, and I'm kind of excited to see how they beef him up. But I'm going to show you the Ethereal versions that I have. So this is the Ethereal version with no upgrade. And it is 418 defense with a strength requirement of only level 33 and a level requirement of 29. Now, this armor is actually pretty nice for mercenaries as well. So if you found an ethereal version, the all resistance is 35, the +1 to skills, and the relatively nice defense, along with the magic damage reduced by, actually makes it a halfway decent mercenary armor. And if you were going to use a Act 3 mercenary, you would probably want to upgrade it. And this is my upgraded Act 3 mercenary one. Now, mine rolled 25 defense. That's why I have the other ethereal one, because I'm going to upgrade that one eventually, and I'm going to replace it, which will be nice. But he doesn't necessarily need the resistances. It's nice for him to be overprotected, but it's not like a huge big deal. Now, for player characters, the ethereal versions tend to be a little lackluster. And the reason for that is because people don't generally want to put a Zod rune in a skin of the Vipermagi. The defense isn't really that like through the roof that to make it a good choice. And if you were going to go with the skin of the Vipermagi, you probably would want to put something else in it. Like, for instance, a facet, which is what I did for my mercenary. So my mercenary is using the ethereal upgraded version, and as you can see, he has a cold facet in there, which gives him the +3% cold skill damage and -5% enemy cold resistance. He's actually pretty darn beast for his particular character. He's running some very nice equipment. I actually have some videos on him, which is kind of funny. But I am actually looking forward to his upgrade, because although he is relatively useful in his current state, his equipment is also ridiculously broken. And I'm also running maximum level conviction. And even with all of that, he's still a little lackluster. He's great for crowd control, but I can't really count on him in a pinch in certain situations, especially when I'm fighting cold immune monsters. Now, Skin of the Vipermagi is one of those armors that a lot of people like to find because it is just so integral to making your character useful at an early level. And I guess we need to go over what is the Skin of the Vipermagi, or where can you find it? Well, being a relatively low-level item, we could look up the treasure class of the Skin of the Vipermagi, and we could try and see what kind of level it requires. So we're going to type in Vipermagi, and what we find is that it is a relatively low-level item with a Q level of 37 and a TC class of 36, which means it's probably going to drop pretty much everywhere, level like 39 and above. And if we go to an area level list, what we will find is probably just about everywhere in Nightmare difficulty. It looks about like just about everywhere in Nightmare difficulty, with the exception of like the beginning of Act 1. This can drop, and it looks like Bale, probably Diablo, and I'm not really sure about Mephisto in normal difficulty. I don't think Mephisto in normal difficulty could drop it, but it does look like to me that at least Bale in normal difficulty could probably drop the Skin of the Vipermagi. So if you're trying to find the Skin of the Vipermagi, your best chances are probably to farm Nightmare difficulty. Perhaps monsters like, I'm trying to think here off the top of my head, probably Mephisto, to be honest, or Andariel. Mephisto and Andariel would probably be two good choices in Nightmare difficulty. And you could also go for the super uniques. It looks like you probably want to go at least to Act 2, around Act 2, because that's when the level starts to bump up high enough where you'd probably see the Skin of the Vipermagi drop more often. So you could do super uniques in Act 2, like for instance you could do Beetle Burst and Dark Elder, who are in the Far Oasis and Lost City, respectively. You could also farm in the Claw Viper Temple, kill what's his face, the Lightning Snake. There's a bunch of different like super uniques around Act 2. I mean, Duriel is not a good choice for farming, but there's probably a good chance that he could drop a skin of the Vipermagi. He just tends to troll with Scrolls of Town Portal way too often for it to be like super useful, and I feel like it's really a big issue with him. Who can use the skin of the Vipermagi? I mean, who can't? I mean, even if you take the 30% faster cast out of the equation, it's still a +1 to all skills piece of armor with 35 to all resistances. There's very few pieces of armor in the game that would even come close to this. Smoke, which is 50 to all res, I believe, only kind of beats this out for certain characters because some characters aren't specifically needing of that +1 to all skills. But with +1 to all skills and 35 to all res, with the magic damage reduced by 13, it's actually even a good choice for some melee characters. Especially if you are a particular melee character who might be higher on the skill-based damage category. The faster cast, though, is what really clinches it, and I feel like that's why sorceresses, hammerdins, elemental druids, and just about every character that needs high faster cast along with resistances and plus the skills is looking at this piece of armor. Now, where does this piece of armor fall off? Well, it sort of falls off later on in the game around, like 80, 90, when you start looking at +2 armors. The +2 armors are really what kind of cinch it for you, and that's why people will eventually go for Enigma, because Enigma has that +2 to skills, and it also has the increased faster cast. And I believe, let me just look it up real quick, just to compare. No, my bad. Enigma does not have faster cast. I think I was thinking of Fortitude. So it's +2 to skills, though, and this is kind of what I was trying to get on, is that the +2 to skills tends to kind of trump the other effects, especially when you look at something like COH. So if we compare Skin of the Vipermagi to Chains of Honor, you notice that we've got +1 here, we've got +2 here. We've got all resistances 65 on the Chains of Honor, whereas we only have all resistances 35 on the Skin of the Vipermagi. We also have damage reduced by 8% on the Chains of Honor, whereas we have no damage reduced by on the Skin of the Vipermagi. And then we also have the 25% better chance of magic items on the Chains of Honor, which you could technically add some DR or some magic find on the Skin of the Vipermagi, but you'd have to use up your socket. And any way you go to upgrade the Skin of the Vipermagi with an item is not really going to encompass all of the effects on the Chains of Honor. Now, the thing is, though, is that 30% faster cast is still extremely hard to replace. And I feel like a lot of people look at that faster cast, and that's why they end up keep using it. I know for a fact that certain paladins within our kinship have continued to use the Skin of the Vipermagi long past when they had other items which were probably more powerful, just simply because it helped them hit that magic breakpoint number so that they could get their magic breakpoint. Without the 30% from the Skin of the Vipermagi, they had a much harder time reaching that number. And you might be asking yourself, well, why is it so important to hit those breakpoints? Well, the breakpoints are just a huge bonus to your casting speed. Once you hit those really high breakpoints, your character will be casting their hammers or their spells much quicker. And for certain characters, because each class has a different breakpoint system, sort of, this is a pretty big deal. It allows you to hit those breakpoints easier and not have to sacrifice so much on your other pieces of equipment, which is nice. And then maybe you could also use, for instance, a Soge for +1 to skills on your ring or something, instead of a 10% faster cast ring, and so forth and so on. So it's a very, very powerful piece of armor, and as you can tell by our talking about this particular piece of armor, it's also just very hard to beat as far as other characters are concerned, because it has a lot to offer. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and I hope that you will take a look at the skin of the Vipermagi. If you have one laying around, maybe you didn't think much of it before, maybe you will think more of it now, or maybe you already knew it was really powerful, and you're like, hey, you're not teaching me anything new, and I get it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and keep watching.